Okay. Okay. This week is the chapter 2 of Turban's book, and today we are going to talk about decision making, systems modeling, and support. And if we look what our learning objectives are in this chapter, we can count them as understand the conceptual foundations of decision making, understand Simon's four phases of decision making, and these are intelligence, design, choice, and implementation. And then we're going to recognize the concepts of rationality and rational rationality and how they are related to the decision making. And also, we're going to differentiate between the concepts of making a choice and establishing a principle of choice. And we're going to learn how decision support systems support for decision making can provide it in practice. And we're going to understand the systems approach. And we have characteristics of decision making, and in addition to the characteristics presented in the previous weeks, we can count them as groupthink, and groupthink can lead sometimes to bad decisions, to be honest. And decision makers are interested in evaluating what-if scenarios, and experimentation with the real system may result in failure. Experimentation with the real system is possible only for one set of conditions at a time and can be disastrous. And changes in the decision-making environment may occur continuously, leading to the invalidating assumptions about the situation. And also, the other characteristics of decision making are, we can say, changes in the decision making environment may affect decisions quality by imposing time pressure on the decision maker. Actually, all environments affect everything, and also this is for true for the decision making as well. We all affected from the environment, and it is really important for us. And collecting information and analyzing a problem takes time and can be expensive. It is difficult to determine when to stop and make decisions. I think this week's reading article was covering this bullet in here, I think, because it was about don't trust your gut, and it was saying that you need to search the all possibilities, and sometimes you need to stop and you gotta make decisions. There may not be sufficient information to make an intelligent decision. For example, when we are trying to make decisions about the future, so generally or sometimes it's more suitable, I think. Sometimes we don't have sufficient information, and these are the decision-making characteristics. And if we look what is decision? So decision making. Decision making is a process of choosing among more than one. So that means we have two or more alternative courses of action for the purpose of attaining a goal or goals. And this definition is made by Simon from 1977. And we have phases of the decision process. And first one is intelligence, the second one is design, and third one is choice. And at the fourth, we have implementation. I think we talked about all of these last week. in here we can say that a problem occurs when a system does not meet its established goals, does not yield the prediction result, or does not work as planned. Problem solving. Problem solving may also deal with identifying new opportunities. Differentiation the terms decision making and problem solving sometimes can be confusing. One way to distinguish between the two is to examine the phases of decision process. If you remember the chapter 1, we talked about intelligence, design, choice, and implementation. Some consider the entire process as problem solving with the choice phase and the real decision making process, and others view phases 1 to 3 as formal decision making, ending with the recommendation, with problem solving. Uh, as our book says, uh, they are they're kind of confusing, but we can say that they have a lot of shared between their self. And we have, of course, according to type, according to disciplines, we have different decision-making disciplines. We can say that if we categorize them into two parts, we can say that they can be behavioral or scientific. And in here, to have a successful decision, they need to be effective and efficient. If you look at effectiveness, it means that the degree of goal attainment, doing the right things, and efficiency, the ratio of output to input, appropriate use of resources, and means doing the things right. Actually, I think if you know or not, generally the other engineering disciplines are about the making the things right? That they are trying to be efficient. But as industrial engineers, generally we say that we choose the right things to do. So that means we are doing the right things. And generally, if you say these to other engineering disciplines, they don't like this phrase, they don't like this claim, and this is kind of a competition between the industrial engineering, with the other engineering disciplines. Have you heard of it? I think I don't know. Have you heard of it or not? But this thing was written in our department's door some time ago. Maybe you have not seen that. Burada şey vardı arkadaşlar, işte mühendisler doğru işi doğru yapar, endüstri mühendisleri doğru işi yapar diye bir kavram var. Bilmiyorum daha önce duydunuz mu ama bu bizim bölümün kapısında yazıyordu. Dışarıdan gelen hocalar ya da diğer mühendislik öğrencileri de genellikle bununla ilgili böyle geri bildirimlerde bulunuyorlardı. Hani çok fazla sevmediklerine dair. Ama endüstri mühendisliği ile ilgili öyle bir şey var. Bununla ilgili bilmiyorum paylaşmak istediğiniz bir şey var mı? Ya da daha önceden sizin yaşadığınız bir şey var mı? Tamam. Yok galiba. Okay. So the next slide is about the decision style. Decision style is the manner in which a decision maker thinks and reacts to problems. It includes perceptions, cognitive responses, values, and beliefs. And we can call these decision styles with autocratic, democratic, and consultative. I think in Turkish we also use these terms a lot, and autocratic is the decision style coming from one person, and democracy and consultative is in consultative they consult us, they give suggestions, and the decision making is kind of coming from a third person, from the other person. It's like these things, we use these things for governments as well. So decision making covers these concepts. Okay, and of course, different decision styles require different types of support. So we are trying to support the decisions, and if the decision style is different, so the support should be different. And individual decision makers need access to data and the experts who can provide advice, because if you are trying to get some advice from your consultancy department or some other person from the outside, you gotta provide a data to them so they can provide you an advice. And groups need collaboration tools. Of course, we are collaborating in here, and we need Zoom or we need Mergen, and similarly, when you are trying to work with a group, you're gonna need collaboration tools. Okay, so a major characteristic of a decision support system and business intelligence tools is the inclusion of at least one model. The basic idea is to perform the decision support system analysis on a model of reality rather than on the real system. A model is defined as a simplified representation or abstraction of reality. I think this definition is important. So we have a real system and we have a representation or abstraction of reality, but this abstraction should represent the real system, and they, of course, we're going to have some assumptions, but they need to be work similarly. It is usually simplified because reality is generally too complex to describe exactly, and because much of this complexity is actually irrelevant in solving a specific problem. And we have iconic model and analog model. An iconic model, also called the scale model, the least abstract type of the model among all of these, among the other one. And it is a physical replica of a system, usually on a different scale from the original. An iconic model may be three-dimensional, such as a model of an airplane, a car, a bridge, or a production line. Photographs are two-dimensional iconic models as well. An analog model behaves like the real system but does not look like it. It is more abstract than an iconic model, and it is a symbolic representation of reality. Models of this type are usually two-dimensional charts or diagrams. They can be physical models, but the shape of the model differs from that of the actual system. Okay, I said two, but we have more. We have four, sorry. And we have mental models as well. Mental models are descriptive representation of decision-making situations that people form in their heads and think about it. So, it's coming from its name, it's mentally. And we have mathematical models. I think our expertise is more suitable to that part, mathematical or quantitative model. It means a system of symbols and expressions that represent a real situation. For example, in your linear programming or nonlinear programming classes, you learned how to build a mathematical model. So we have decision variables, we have symbols, we have constraints, we have objective. So all of these constructs are mathematical model. Okay, so if you look benefits of models, we can say that the first one is model manipulation is much easier than manipulating a real system. And models enable the compression of time. And years of operations can be simulated in minutes or seconds of computer time. I think you have simulation class this year or this semester or the next semester. I'm not sure about it, but I'm sure it is in the third year. And in this class, you're gonna have simulation models, and you will run maybe your model 10 years in 10 seconds. So in this way, you will see and you will analyze the outcomes of your model, and you're gonna make some updates about it. The cost of modeling analysis is much lower, and the cost of making mistakes during a trial and error experiment is much lower when models are used now with the real systems. For example, if you are trying to send a vehicle to moon, of course you're gonna need to make some simulations in the computer. Or for example, when pilots are trained, that firstly they use some simulations, and after that they go to a real system. And it is similar for us as well. When you're trying to do something in a factory, you're gonna make some simulations. Then after that, you're gonna buy some hardware for your hardware and some other tools for your factory or your business environment. With modeling, a manager can estimate the risk resulting from a specific action within the uncertainty of the business environment. Mathematical models enable the analysis of very large number of possible solutions, and models enhance and reinforce learning and training. And we're gonna have web tools or some softwares like Java applets in our computers. Okay, so let's move. So in here we have a figure from our book, and it describes the decision making and modeling process. Let's see what we can say about it. You see, at the left hand side, you see the reality in here, and with some simplifications and assumptions, we have intelligence phase. And in intelligence phase, we do some job in here. For example, problem identification, problems statement. After that, we pass design phase, and in here we formulate the model and we search for alternatives, and then we come here to choice phase. And in here we make the solution of the model. And after that, when we in here we implement the solution, and in the case of any failure, I think it should be said in here. And in the case of failure, we move some of the parts in here. And in the phase of success, we apply our updates or solutions to the reality. Okay, next. So in here, we're gonna see phases one by one. And as we mentioned in the previous slide, we're gonna have an intelligence phase, decision phase, choice phase, and implementation phase. The initial intelligence is the initial phase of the problem definition in decision making, and design phase is the second step. and it involves finding possible alternatives in decision making and accessing their contributions. Choice phase is the choosing the best of them among the alternatives, and in the implementation, it's the putting a recommended solution to work. Okay. Uh, Problem or opportunity. So both of them. If you have a problem, also it means you have an opportunity, right? And uh, the problem or in our identification means that some issues that may arise during data collection, and uh, it can be data maybe not available, obtaining data may be expensive, or it can be laborious, and estimation can be subjective sometimes, and sometimes it can be insecure, and results may be qualitative. And also sometimes you may have information overload. Outcomes may occur over an extended period, and in future data is not consistent with the historical data, and the nature of the change has to be predicted and included in the analysis. So I think all of our job is included this part, because we are trying to estimate the change, the nature of change in the future, right? So we are trying to estimate the future. Yeah. Okay. So okay. We came almost the half of our chapter right now. Let's have a 10-minute break, and let's talk about your questions if you like, or we can stop here and give 10-minute maybe bio break. Okay, we were talking about problem classification, and problem classification is the conceptualization of a problem in an attempt to place it in definable category, possibly leading to a standard solution approach. An important approach classifies problem according to the degree of structuredness. We talked about it last week, if you remember. The degree of structuredness evident in them. And the second one is problem decomposition. Many complex problems can be divided into subproblems. Solving these simpler subproblems may help in solving a complex problem. Also, seemingly poorly structured problems sometimes have highly structured subproblems. And the other one is problem ownership. The assignment of authority to solve the problem is called the problem ownership. For example, a manager may feel that he or she has a problem because interest rates are too high, because interest rate levels are determined at the national and international levels, and most managers can do nothing about them. High interest rates are the problem of the government, not a problem for a specific company. So the problem companies actually face is how to operate in high interest rate environment. For an individual company, the interest rate level should be handled as an uncontrollable environmental, or in the other case, you can say environmental factor to be predicted. And okay. The design phase involves finding or so okay. We were here. Okay. Yeah. We came to design phase. The design phase involves finding or developing and analyzing possible courses of action. It needs understanding the problem, testing solutions for feasibility and a model of the decision-making problems, constructed, tested, and validated. And if we come in here, I think we should talk about the, okay, we're gonna talk about the next slide. Okay, so here we can say that modeling involves, as I said, conceptualization of problem and abstraction. And models have decision variables and principles of choice. A decision variable in a model that can be changed and manipulated by the decision maker. Decision variables correspond to the decisions to be made, such as quantity to produce, amounts of resources to allocate, and so on. As you remember, as I mentioned, as you remember from the operations research class or linear programming classes, I think you learned what the decision variables are. And actually, we define the decision variables, but what the number should be about the decision variable. What is the decision variable is the choice of us, and we are trying to support this choice. The other thing is principle of choice, the criterion for making a choice among the alternatives. So to compare them, we're gonna need a principle. So we need some kind of evaluation process for them. So the principle of choice includes these steps. And in the design phase, we can talk about normative models. Normative models are models in which the chosen alternative is demonstrably the best of all possible alternatives. To find it, the decision maker should examine all the alternatives and prove that one selected is indeed the best, which is what the person would normally want. This process basically optimization, and we are, as industrial engineers, highly in the optimization science, and we can say that it's one of our job. In operational terms, optimization can be achieved in one of the three ways, and we can say that the first one is get the highest level of goal attainment from a given set of resources. So it's like maximization of our outcomes. And the other one is find the alternative with the highest ratio of goal attainment to cost, or maximize productivity. So it's like minimization the cost or maximizing the productivity. The third one is to find the alternative with the lowest cost. Actually, we already said that. That will meet the acceptance level of goals. And in here we see the sub-optimization term. Sub-optimization based in this kind of solution, we divide the problems under the sub-problems, and we sub-optimize them one by one. And we talked about simulation in the last today's previous class. And simulation, we can say that simulation is an imitation of reality. And narrative is a story that helps the decision maker uncover the important aspects of this situation and leads to better understanding of framing. And we talked about all of these under the descriptive model, right? So maybe I should mention about it firstly, but descriptive models describe the things as they are or as they believe to be. So I think the definition is basic in here. And if we move on, we're gonna see good enough or satisfying terms. So in here we say that to accept as a decision, it need to be good enough, right? Uh, if our needs at one level, at least your decisions should support or your decisions should meet or should be good enough at least that level. And in here we can say that a process by which one seeks a solution that will satisfy a set of constraints. So as you remember from the operations research classes, you're gonna have many more constraints, and you need to satisfy all of them as well. In contrast to the optimization, which seeks the best possible solution, finding the good enough seeks a solution that will work well enough. So sometimes finding the best cannot be possible, and also on the other hand, it can be timely, or in terms of money, it can be costly. So, for example, you can find a solution in a minute, and it satisfies your needs, and it's good enough for you. And on the other hand, maybe the other choice can be you can wait 10 hours or 10 days to find the best solution, but we can prove that it is the best, but maybe you don't want to wait that much, or on the other hand, as I said, it can be costly. On the other hand, maybe you don't want to spend that much money, and if you get an easy solution with simple steps, and if the solution satisfies you, and if it is good enough for you, and you don't have to wait for, or you don't have to spend too much money, or you don't have to wait a lot. Okay. So as I mentioned.
Hocam araya giriyorum ama bir şey
Tabii,
diyebilirim.
buyurun.
Satisfying o zaman sub-optimization mı oluyor?
Ya sub-optimization'da aslında şöyle, o tarafı biraz hızlı geçtik ama sub-optimization'da mesela büyük bir problemim var. Ve bir sürü şeyi böyle yapmaya çalışıyorsun, optimize etmeye çalışıyorsun. Yani bu bir problemi ağaç gibi düşünürsen, alt tarafa doğru dallandıklarında böyle küçük küçük aslında en iyilemen gereken farklı kısımlar var gibi düşün ve bunların belki bu alt problemlerin optimize edilmesi belki genel genel yapının optimize edilmesini sağlayacak ya da onunla ilgili tamam birebir belki en iyi çözüm vermeyecek ama iyi çözümlerden birisini verecek belki. Fakat burada şöyle bir şey var. Burada problemimiz yine tek ama diyelim ki sen bir şey yapmaya çalışıyorsun, bir çözüm bulmaya çalışıyorsun ve en iyi çözümü bulabilecek kabiliyetinde var diyelim ki. Bu olmayabilir. Birçok problemde en iyi çözümü bilmiyoruz. Ama oldu da hadi elimizde bir araç var ve bu en iyiyi bulabilecek durumda. Fakat zor problemler için bu zaman açısından çok bekletebilir. Belki bizim diyelim ki araçlarımızı rotalamamız gerekiyor ve günlük çıkartıyoruz bu araçları Türkiye'de dağıtıma. Fakat bizde öyle bir yöntem var ki 10 günde çözüm veriyor. Bu durumda bu işimize yaramayacak ya da o 10 gün bekletmek çok mantıklı olmayacak. Ya da diğer taraftan öyle bir durum olabilir ki hani en iyi çözümü bulmak belki çok maliyetli olabilir parasal açıdan. Bunu da harcamak isteyebiliriz. Buradaki işte good enough'taki kabul edebileceğimiz şey diyelim ki bir şey yaparsak, bir skala yaparsak, diyelim ki çözümümüzün kalitesi veya çözümümüzün iyiliği, diyelim ki 10'luk kalitede bir çözüm ya da 10'luk iyilikte bir çözümü 10 günde mi elde etmek isteriz, yoksa 9 birimlik iyilikte bir çözümü 2 dakikada mı elde etmek isteriz? Bu biraz böyle burada bir şey var, ödünleşim var.
Biraz daha kişisel gibi sanki bunun kararını verirken.
Kişisel ya da aynı zamanda şey de olabilir. Ee, Aynı zamanda hani firmanın istekleri, firmanın ihtiyaçlarına da bağlı olabilir. O yüzden e, şey kişisel mi diyelim yoksa şey mi, subjektif mi diyelim, biraz böyle şey, öznel bir karar gibi. Yani ne kadarı bizi tatmin ediyor. İkisinin farkı o açıkçası.
Tamam, teşekkür ederim.
Tamam, teşekkür ederim. Burada mesela şimdi şey de olacak. Mesela size verdiğimiz projelerde, birazdan o kısma da geleceğiz. Size verdiğimiz projelerde en iyi çözüm bulmak genellikle zor olacak. Diyeceğiz ki bir tane heuristik metot, yani sezgisel bir metot uygulayın. Bize iyi çözümlerden bir tanesini versin. Bu bizim işimizi görür diyeceğiz ve onu belki kodlamanızı isteyeceğiz. Dolayısıyla bu sezgisel, hatta meta sezgisel şeylerini, terimlerini belki duymuşsunuzdur. Sezgiseli birazdan ileriki slaytlarda konuşacağız. Onlar da bu good enough çözüm kısmına denk gelen şeyler. Evet. Okay. The results of good enough solution can be time pressure, ability to achieve optimization, and recognition that the marginal benefit of a better solution is not worth the marginal cost to obtain it. So it's like, as I said, would you like to have a 10-point goodness solution in 10 days? Or would you like to get a solution with the 9-point quality or 9-point goodness in 2 minutes? So probably if the 2-minute version works for me, I would go for the second option. So the third part in here says this. So it's about the marginal cost and marginal benefit. Okay, let's move on. And we are in the decision making and design phase. And in here, developing or generating alternatives involve optimization models. The alternatives may be generated automatically by the model, but in most management support systems situations, it is necessary to generate alternatives manually, or issues such as when to stop generating alternatives are very important. And it involves the search for the alternatives, usually occurs after a criteria for evaluating the alternatives are determined. And the outcome of every proposed alternative must be established as well. And in here also, we need to talk about measuring outcomes. So measuring is important, and the value of an alternative in here, the value of an alternative is evaluated in terms of goal attainment. Sometimes an outcome is expressed directly in terms of goal. For example, profit is an outcome, and profit maximization is a goal. And both of them are expressed in dollar terms. But sometimes an outcome can be subject to like customer satisfaction. And we need to think about it. We need to choose the right option among them. And sometimes they can be qualitative, and sometimes they can be quantitative. And here also we have risk definition. All decisions are made in an inherently unstable environment. This is due to many unpredictable events in both the economic and physical environment. So you cannot guess the vehicle crash, or you cannot guess an earthquake. You cannot guess the, okay, maybe some of them can be guessable, but sometimes it can be hard to guess. For example, the dollar Turkish lira rate of the next year affects you. Maybe you have a guess, but all of these are really complex environments, and it is hard to choose the correct decision. So all of them contains some of them are risk in here. And in here, maybe stochastic process, and it's like the opposite of the deterministic processes. In here, maybe we need to talk about stochastic processes and the distribution of our car crash or vehicle crashes, or distributions among the natural disasters, or the predictions about the dollar Turkish lira rates, etc. A scenario, and the other thing about the design phase is scenario term. A scenario is a statement of assumptions about the operating environment of a particular system at a given time. A narrative, a description of the decision situation settings. And scenarios are especially helpful in simulations and what-if analysis. So we cannot reflect all of the environment because it's really complex. So we need to make some assumptions. Again, I'm gonna give you an example about your linear programming class. So in that one, you had a big assumption. And what was it? Do you remember? What was the big assumption in linear programming class? It is inside the name. So when you write your constraints, when you write your objectives, when you write your formulas, and you assume that all of the things are linear, but in real life we don't have such a case. So everything is non-linear, generally, most likely. And our big assumption in that kind of models is having linear formulas. Okay, and scenarios can play an important role because they help identifying the opportunities, provide flexibility in planning, help validate measure models, and also help to check sensitivity of proposed solutions to the changes in the environment. And I think you heard about them, possible scenarios. Maybe we can have thousands of possible scenarios in every decision situation, but the followings are especially the useful cases: worst possible scenario, best possible scenario, most likely scenario, and average scenario are the commonly used terms in this part. Maybe sometimes you may need to be ready for the worst case, but according to business environment, according to business type, you may choose the others as well. And the model is a critical component in the decision-making process, but decision maker may make a number of errors in its development and use, and validating the model before it is used is critical. And after that, when we create the model, we're gonna need to solve the decision-making model. We gotta need to choose about the solutions from the solutions, and we can use analytical techniques as optimization. Maybe sometimes we need to use algorithms and It's that, the algorithms are step-by-step procedures, and maybe we should follow an algorithm. And sometimes, as I said, we can use heuristics or meta-heuristics. Meta-heuristics are the kind of more complex and more mathematical versions of the heuristics. And heuristics means sezgisel. So you may choose a sezgisel or heuristic version of the solution method, and you can follow them. Generally, they are much more easier, and you can use blind searches as well. As I said, okay, we talked about here. Analytical techniques include mathematical formulas, and we talked about the algorithms and meta-heuristics. Okay. In the choice phase, we may need sensitivity analysis and what-if analysis. Sensitivity is a study of the effect of a change in one or more input variables on a proposed solution. And what-if analysis is a process that involves asking a computer what the effect of changing some of the input data or parameters would be. If we come to implementation phase, for an implementation phase, generic implementation issues are important in dealing with MSS, and they include resistance to change and degree of support of the top management, and it also needs user training. And where you see decision support system support, and as you see, again, we have intelligence, design, choice, and implementation phases. And in here, you see the tools, for example, artificial neural networks, data mining, or ERP tools for the intelligence. And you have management science, again, artificial neural networks and CRMs in here, in the design and choice phase as well. And all of that are interact with each other. And if we come to one by one to these parts, how we can support the intelligence phase. The ability to scan external and internal information sources for opportunities and problems and interpret what this scanning discovers. So this part involves these things, and I think this week's again reading article was mentioning these as well. We need to scan all of the external and internal information sources for that. And here we can use web tools, and they are really useful. And sometimes we may need internal data sources, and sometimes external sources can be many, and you have various external sources. In again support of the design phase, how we can support it, the generation of alternatives for complex problems requires expertise, and you're gonna be the experts in this part, and that can be provided only by human or brainstorming software or an ES. Okay. So we have to support for the choice phase. In here, let's see what we can say about this part. Okay. Decision support system can support the choice phase through what if most taking analysis, and different scenarios can be tested for the selected option to reinforce the final decision. Decision support system can be used in implementation activities such as decision communication, explanation, and justification. DSS benefits are partly due to the vividness and detail of the analysis and reports. Okay, so I think we're getting the end of today's class, and we may use new technologies, and they can be mobile commerce, personal devices, and we can use cell phones, tablets, and laptops. And okay, this was the end of our slide. Okay, now we can summarize the class interaction. We can have your questions. Okay, so I'm gonna give the word to you firstly. If you have any questions, you can write from the chat box, or you can use your microphone. Okay, well, in here today we have an Excel file example here, and this is the list of our class of this year, and maybe you see your name. And we have some random data as well in here. So if you see your gender, age, or other education level, and please do not take them serious. So they are random assignments. And today's example gonna be about our class list. And in here you see a list, and we assume that we need to take the gender of the class, age, and the age range, education level, and we also we assume that you are making some payments, and we are trying to find the sum of the payments and the okays, not okays, etc. And we're trying to make some summarizing, and we will try to make some abstractions, and we will try to show data in a correct way. Okay, as you see, we have the list. So if you move, if you move your tabs in here, you see we have some sections like file, home, insert, page layout, formula, data, review, and wheel. And I think you can add some other sections here by adding right click, and you can customize these parts. Okay. I think all of the functionalities are not available at the default system. And in file, as you know, you can open a previous file, you can create a new file, and you can save your file, and also you can export your file, and you can create a PDF from your file. Okay, so these are the basic parts. In home, we see general writing tools, and you can make some font changes here, and you can change the you can fill a color, and you can change the color of the text here, and you can change the alignments in here, and you can, for example, if we write something to here, and you can merge cells, and when right click, you can again, sorry, if you click again to merge and center, you can split the cells again to two parts. Do you have a question, Nahan? No. Okay, let's move. I see wrong, sorry. Okay, so if you look at the rest, we have a formatting part here, and we're gonna see it later. And we have conditional formatting and format as table parts. Okay, and these we can change the styles of the cells as well. Okay, we're gonna see conditional formatting in the next part. In the insert, we can insert a table by choosing the part. For example, if you click here and if you go to the end with Control Shift and to the down, and you can choose to the right like this. I used Control Shift and right and down arrows, and you can insert a table by clicking here. And in this case, it is already inserted right now. The first line will be the title parts, and in this way you can filter your data. For example, in terms of gender, we can choose only boys by clicking here, and also we can choose only girls, or we can show both of them. And again, for educational level or in terms of amount, we can make some other filters as well. We can use here as a filter. Okay, so as you know, we can insert 3D models, shapes, and we can insert charts, and we can in here, what else could be important? So sometimes we may need some special symbols, and because we are engineers, sometimes we're gonna need some applications. And I don't know if you have heard of LaTeX. So to write scientific papers, we write LaTeX, okay? So this part is compatible with LaTeX. And also, you can use symbols here, you can use some fractions, and you can, let's make it bigger, okay. You can write some scientific computations to here, but at the same time, you can write a LaTeX code. For example, they work like if you write backslash and let's say square root did not work. Okay, so for example, we can do this way, backslash. I don't know what the problem is, but let's say x and square. Okay, I think there's a problem right now. It should automatically do the calculation. Let's add another, let's insert another equation. Let's check it. It should work. Okay. X square. Okay, it worked. So if you write the equations in terms of LaTeX, you're gonna think at the first place it accepts only. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is you can write LaTeX equation formulas to equations here. For example, again, I'm gonna try square root, and as you see, it created the square root symbol here. Okay, so sometimes these sections in the formula pane is enough for you, but sometimes you may need to write some other formulas. Okay, I think in insert the main parts are these. So if you come to page layout, you can arrange margins for your printings, and you can change the orientation of your pages, And also, when you insert a square shape or a circle, you can bring some of them to front or send back some of them. You can send back some of them. Okay. So you can change background as well. So let's write. I don't have an image file in this part. Let's write software here and search. It's gonna bring something to us. And if I insert one of them, as you see, you can put some background image to here. These are the basic things. I think they are not really important. They are important, but maybe you already know all of these. So if you want to arrange the column sizes or the row sizes, you can select them like this. And if you change one of the row or column width like this, it's gonna adjust all of them, as you see. This is similar for the rows as well. And if you go formulas, okay, we're gonna write formulas by manually. And in data, I think this part is the mostly important for us. So in here, we can import some data from a text file. We can get data from web, or we can get data from connections with that from a data source or from another file. Okay, so we can split text to columns. Let's get a data from text. So I click from text. I have a data file in my desktop called Iris. This is a basic data set for data mining. And if I import it, it's gonna create the files. And in here, in my file, actually, let me show you. So in here, in my original file, my columns are splitted with commas, or delimited with commas, okay? So in my original text files, I have 51, 35, 14, 2, and at the end, I have Irish settles up. And by choosing your delimiter, it can be anything, but in this time, it's comma. And if you choose this one, it's gonna load the data split according to comma. And as you see, it's automatically create the table. And again, for example, if I wanna see only Iris settles and it's gonna show only that part. And by this way, you can of course copy and paste here as well. You're gonna need, in this case, manually again split data to text the columns. Okay, for example, let me write here and 21 here. And if let's choose this column. If I choose here and if I click text the columns, okay, this we can say that this is delimited, or sometimes the columns can be fixed as well, since it is delimited. So I say comma in here, and automatically I choose the format in here, and automatically it splits the data in the other cells. Okay, in here, what else is important? Let's see. So we can sort the data by choosing like this. And for example, I want to sort the data according to column 2 and according to style values from largest to smallest. And if I click OK, as you see, it is sorted automatically. And We can use remove duplicates here. Let's see. So if I see remove duplicates, okay. If I, as you see, I had 4 of the duplicates, and I choose the remove duplicate section. It's choose only first of them. Okay. So in review, we have other tools. I think we're not gonna use this part a lot. Maybe you can insert a comment, but it's easy by clicking right click and insert comment, and we can say that check this. Okay. So when you come here, you see the comment in the cell, and at the right hand side, the red part shows that okay, there's a comment in the cell. And in view, we can have page break review, normal view, and in here also you have macros. And the rest of our class will be about only this part. For example, let me show you something. For example, when we create a macro, we will click here, and we're gonna say that, let's say, first macro, and you're gonna say create. And can you see my macro page right now? No? Or yes?
Yok, görmüyoruz şu an hocam.
Görmüyorsunuz. Okay. Stop share deyip şöyle yapalım o zaman. Screen share diyeyim. O kısma gelelim. Okay. Now I think you see the macro page, right?
Evet, şimdi görüyoruz.
Okay, so one of the basic things to write something to cell is cells, let's say cells 1, 6. We're gonna say equals high, and I can run this, and it's run, so I run the code from here. And this is one of the basic things. It's like, I think if you remember from the Python course, it's like writing something to console. And if we go back to the Excel page, it was 1, 6. And if you see, the 1 is correspond to first row, and 6 correspond to 6th column. And in here you see high. We wrote high here. So all of the things we're gonna do in this class will be about that part end. Okay. So for now, let's skip here. For table tools, you see some additional things. For example, you see the design for the table. In here you can export or insert slicer from here, and you can write some queries. I think in some of the elective courses, what was it? It was industrial information systems, or we can say endüstriyel bilgi sistemleri. In that class, I think you learn how to write queries, and again, you can, from here, you can apply queries from here. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, it comes now. So if you say right click a page, and if you click hide, as you see, this part is hidden. You can do the same thing. You can do the same thing for some columns here. For example, if you click N and click hide, and as you see, N is hidden, but you can select it and move it to the right side and to show it again. You can do the same thing for your rows in here. Okay, so let's move on. Let's come to important parts. So we talked about filtering in here, and in view we have self-release options. Maybe sometimes you may need to show some of first rows or some of first columns in your system. For example, if you see the first 5 rows are frozen. So in this way, if I come to the end of the rows in here, if I come to 83rd person in the class, you see that you can see the first 5 rows in here. So how we do this? So you select this part, for example, and you can say that I'm gonna freeze these panels, and they are already frozen right now. Let's unfreeze them. In the unfreezed version, you cannot see the first 5 rows. And let's choose here. And let's choose freeze panes. And okay, so it is frozen from the wrong part. Let's say unfreeze panes. Okay, freeze panes. Okay, we should put this way. Unfreeze panes, and if you say freeze panes, okay, did what we're actually want. Okay, so we can do the same thing for the first columns as well. So you can, when you move right side, you can see the maybe row number in here. Okay, you can do other things as well. For example, you can split the page, and while you're doing some job in here, and you do another thing at the bottom side. So in this way, you can split your page as well. Okay, so how we're writing formula. For example, for example, if I wanna find the average of the age of my class in here, you can write the equation signature, and according to your Office program language, you may need to write in English or in Turkish. Let's say sum. When you write the function, it shows the different options include sum, and I'm gonna use the sum function. And when I click the parentheses, it says you need to give the numbers, and I'm gonna need to find the sum all of these. I click here F6, and at the same time, if I want different numbers from different sides, I can write plus and come here. Maybe this is one way, but generally we will want to find the sum of a column, so you can choose here. Sorry, you can choose here, and then with Control and Shift to the end, you can select the range. So we call when we choose more than one cells, and as you see here below, we say this part as a range. In this class, we're going to say this is a range, and we say that we need to sum F6 to F88. So it's going to give the total to us. We write the formulas in this way. So another thing. So we can find the average, we can find the sum, and let's say we're now trying to find we have an equation here, and we are trying to find okay, this way, this will be gonna be better. Okay, if we come here, as you see, we have name and the combined version of them. And how we did this? So we have Mehmet here, and we make Yılan as the surname. And if we come to D, we can write an equation like this as in the formula bar in here. So maybe this will be better. Let's see. Okay, we see a formula bar here, and we say that B6 and space and C6, and it combines the B column and the C column. Okay, so let's delete this part, and let's say I have this formula in here, and if you click the right bottom side here, and if you move down, this formula will be copied to the down. Okay, so as you see here, you see that actually we wrote here B6 and C6, but in here you see it's copied as B7 and C7 and so on. And in this way, we copied all of them. And we get the combinations of the names and surnames. And sometimes you may need to find another thing. For example, assume that we have 500 Turkish lira here, and we are trying to find we are trying to find the dollar conversion of it, and in here we can say that dollar equals to I don't remember what is the latest rate, but let's say okay, let's say I don't remember. Sometimes the comma and dot means different things in Turkish and in English. I downloaded this software newly, but it is good. For formatting cells was in our list as well. So if you click right a cell, and if you say format cells, you can change the data type in here. We can have a custom data type, text, special, fraction, and generally we're going to use number, and you can change the decimal points as well, and you can choose general, and you can choose the currency in here, as you see in the money column in here. Okay, let's use a number and make them decimal. Okay, so it is 0.9. So assume that, but it should be 7.9. I wish it was 7.9, 0.9. Okay, so let's say you are trying to find the dollar amount of Mehmet paid to us. Let's say equals to this part is divided by here. When you click, you see that don't take care about the symbol in here. We can change it from formatting cell. We can, for example, from here, we can change, it should be dollar. Okay, let's choose one of them. Anyways. And it makes $63. When you move down, you see you have an error for the division of 0. So why it is caused? If you look, you see the formula in here. K6 is divided by P2. But when we come here, when we move down, we will want to divide K7 to P2 again. But in here, it tries to, when we scroll down, it tries to divide the to P3. So how we can solve this problem? So if you want, when you are scrolling down or to the right, if you want something to be frozen, you should write a dollar sign before it. For example, when we come down, P is okay. We don't go right side, but for the other columns, we're gonna need always P2. So we will, okay, I don't see dollar sign in my pointer. Okay, so it will be P2. So now 2 is frozen. When I choose this one and come down, so you see always tries to divide P2. You can do the same thing for another column or another row as well. Okay, so we come here. Another thing is if. So, you know, if clause, and you can say that, okay, if the logical test, for example, if your age is 15, or sorry, let's say we have chosen them as 18, okay. If you come here, you're gonna see the exact version. Let's move from there. So we have if function, and you write a condition in here, and you say that if it is between, if it is lower than 18, you are gonna say that 0 to 18 age, and otherwise you can say that otherwise by clicking the by writing the comma with that. And otherwise, it's gonna say it's not underage, and it is the age is greater than 18. So in this way, you can write more than one if as in programming, but as a function, you write the condition here, the correct phase, and the false phase. Okay, so the other thing is conditional formatting. So if we, as you see in here, you see the status as okay or not okay, right? So we have okays here and not okays here as well. And if you want, okays should be in the green and not okays should be in the red. You can choose here as a column, and if you go home and if you choose conditional formatting, you can do some you can play with here. You can write a rule here. For example, these rules can be greater than, less than, between two, or equal to. In here we did equal to because you're gonna say if the range is equal to okay, you're gonna write, you're gonna make the background green, and otherwise you're gonna make the background red, like this. And the other things are, you can use the color scales, you can use data bars or icon sets as well. This part is done, but let's insert a conditional formatting here. And if you go data bars and let's choose gradient fill, you're gonna see that it will show the maximum amount with the 100%, and it will show the others in other forms. And also, you can insert some icons. Again, if you choose a conditional formatting and let's say icon set in here, as you see, you can insert some icons to each cell. And conditional formatting is one of the good tools for visualization. And I think one of the tricks in here, when you write something in red color, I mean, if your background is red, please maybe choose a different color from black. So white is a good option. So it's a good thing for visualization, and it's a good trick. Okay, you can do the same amount, same thing for here as well. And sometimes, as in programming, sometimes you may need to some information validation. For example, sometimes you may need a number in somewhere, but they may write a different thing. Or you can, in some cases, you may have different conditions. For example, ödendi, eksik ödendi. So if your choices are only 3 of them, you may need to use data validation. How we do that? We choose here. I'm sorry. We choose here. Let's say we are choosing here the 83. And I think, as I remember, it was under data. So we come data, and you can say that data validation. So where is it? Okay, it's here. If you choose data validation, let's choose validate data, and you can say that I'm gonna give any value a decimal. For example, you ask user to write 2 decimals, but maybe they entered 5. You can give a list. You can strict it with time or date as well. Let's choose a list, and from combo box you can give your list, and my list is written in here. The options are ödendi, ödenmedi, and eksik ödendi in the combo box section in here. And if we click enter, and if we say OK, and you can enter error messages as well, and you can show, you can choose the style as stop, and you can write don't do this or something like that. And if you click OK, so when you click here, you're gonna see a combo box. You can choose from here. And again, we have conditional formatting for this part as well. And if you write ödemedi, which one, this is not an option for us. And if I click, it says this value does not match the data validation restrictions. And you can say retry. But I did not see the don't do this. So let's go back here. Okay. Let's write don't. I don't know. Okay. Okay. If I write ödemedi, so the title don't do this, and the message don't comes to your as an information box, and this way you can validate your data. Okay, so let's look at our time. So let's move 5-10 minutes more. Other thing is subtotal function. Other important thing is subtotal function. So subtotal in normal sum, let's write a sum here first, and in this way I can show the difference here. Okay, let's write the sum of the paid amount. I'm gonna choose here. Okay, so you see the total amount is equal to the subtotal amount. The subtotal function is written like subtotal, and we will see the options in here. Line means sum, and K6 to K88 is our range. But, oops, excuse me. Now they are the same, but when you filter here, let's say that's the only boys, you are gonna see the sum of the amount is 17,000 here from the subtotal, and from the sum, the amount is still the same. So that means sum function does not affect your filters in here. Still, it tries to find the sum of the whole numbers in this range. But subtotal takes care about the selections in here, and it only calculates the total of the only boys. So that makes the difference, and that is something we may need to be aware of. Okay, so how do we write this? If you go subtotal, it will say for sum, please choose 9. For minimum, please choose 5. For maximum, please choose 4. Well, for example, like that. If we write 4, it's gonna find the maximum of all of this amount. And after that, when you, as a second parameter, you're gonna give the whole range in here. And then when you click, it's gonna show the thing that you need. And this is one of the tricky part about the Excel. And the other thing is pivot table. I think some of you already know about it, but maybe some of you don't know. Let's choose I'm gonna delete here. Okay. Let's choose this table. And then if we say insert pivot table, it's gonna ask us where should I create the pivot table, and you can say, okay, create it to a new sheet. And we just created a new sheet here. And when you choose this sheet, we can make some you can get some summarized data about it. You're gonna have filters, columns, rows, and values in here. Let's say we have gender as columns, and let's have a yaş aralığı, gender range as rows in here. And what we're gonna see is the payment, and automatically it creates a summarized table for us. For example, for 0 to 18, you see the boys paid that amount and girls paid that amount. And for adult person, girls paid that amount and boys paid that amount. And you see the grand total here. And in this way, you can change these ranges as well. So maybe the age is not suitable for here. It's too complicated. You can take it and throw it away like this. And maybe we will need the education level from the columns, and you see different sections for the education level here. So you can throw it away. And for example, in here, so we can format here. So if I create, so if I click here and value field, if I choose the value field settings, you can find the count. By default it is sum, but you can choose count, average, maximum, minimum, and product. Let's say minimum, or let's say count. In this way, we can see how many people paid and how many people paid from this range and this range. Okay, so you can play with here, and please play with them, and it is one of the good things about the Excel, and it is one of the valuable things for us. Okay, the other thing is Format Painter. Maybe you already know it, but if I choose here, and if I would like to copy its format, I can choose Format Painter, and I can click the place where I want to copy it. If I click it, as you see, it is copied to here. The other thing is, maybe you need to, as you see, if you click once, if it copies only once, and you can not copy again. You may need to do it again and again by clicking here. But if you double click here, and if you click the places one by one, it allows you to make multiple formats like this. Okay. The other important thing, and I think one of the most important functions of Excel is vertical lookup and horizontal lookup. We're going to see a vertical lookup page, a vertical lookup formula, sorry. Okay, assume that we have a list here, and assume that we don't have here. Assume that we don't have this ödelen miktar in here. Okay, my mouse does not click right. Okay. Okay, I delete it here. Assume that I don't have this information, and I assume that I have another list. It's a mixed one, and it's another row by row, and I have payment amounts here coming from different times, and I need to get this data to here in a correct order. So in this case, I'm gonna need a keyword. So this keyword can be TGID, your ID, or it can be a special number or something like that. Now we're going to use the name, but it's not a good key option, I think, but it's a practice, so we can use name. So in this case, we do that because we are looking vertically. We're going to use vertical lookup. You say that you're going to enter a formula, and we will say that we vertical lookup, and it helps you like that. In this case, you're going to see that I'm looking for a value. So what's your key? Your key is the name in here, and after that, it asks you the table array where you're trying to find the find that value, and you need to go to your data source, and you will need to choose the data source from here by including the all values, and you can say that, okay, my range is here, and you can continue. And if you come back to data, we will say that, okay, oops. Okay, we enter the from this sheet, and we wrote the range, and after that we will say that column index number. So the index numbers start from 1. So because the first column was the name and the second column was the amount, we were going to choose 2 here. And it asks you if the list is ordered or not. So generally, if your data file is not that big and if it is not ordered here, false is a better option for you. And in this case, this function goes to looks for the Mehmet from the this sheet from isim listesi, and it finds this is the first column and this is the second column of your range. So if this range would be in here, for example, if you will choose the range from here, and if f is name and surname, and if the total amount is the amount of money, we would still choose the 2 from that function as well. So it is not the column number. So because of the money is from at the 2, we have chosen 2. And if you go back, so you can copy the formula and you can come back and let's see if we will have a problem or not. Okay, we did not have, but generally I would expect a problem because the thing is in here, as you see, VLOOKUP is looking for D6 in here, and in the second person, it is looking for D7, which is correct. So it is looking for Mustafa and it would go in the order. But in here, you see a list is changing. So it was from A2 to B74. If you count down, it is going for A3 to B75. So normally our range in here is always same, and we would expect the range should be the same thing. So in here, you need to write $sign to here. Not here. Let's go to first one. Let's write a $sign to here. And in this case, when you scroll down, let's see, still it is A2, B784, A2, B84, A2, B84, and so on. So it did not create a problem because of the, I think list was in the correct shape, but in the 99% in the real life, you're gonna have this problem and you should be aware of it. And VLOOKUP, a vertical lookup goes for it and finds the total amount everybody paid. I think it is enough for today's class. And if you have any questions about the this part, please ask and let's talk. Okay, guys.